Hello and welcome to the Mirrorcube solution. Now the Mirrorcube is a horrible puzzle that was on sale in various places like the Works in the UK over the Christmas period, and it is a horrible thing. It doesn't twist easily, and it can be a nightmare to actually try and use. However, the solution is a lot easier than you might imagine, because the solution is exactly the same as a standard 3x3 puzzle. There are two things you need to know to do this. The first is you need to know the solution to the 3x3. There's a video on my channel which will tell you that. It's a 7-stage solution. I'm going to do the same 7-stage solution on both of these for this video. The second thing that you need to know is how can you tell which piece is which on this one, because they're all the same colour. Well, the axle in the middle of this is off centre, which means that as soon as you start twisting it, all the pieces become different heights and different depths to each other, and that's how you know which side is which. So to give an example, the first stage of your Rubik's Cube is to make that cross, and what I've done is I've made a cross on this one as well, and as you can see the 4 corner pieces, they stick out completely differently, but the actual cross itself is completely flush. So if you take it in your hand, you can rub your finger across the cross, it's all completely flat, completely smooth, and that's how you know which piece is which. If you have 2 pieces that are level with each other on the puzzle, completely flat like that, you know they are effectively the same colour. Now, in solving this, it actually becomes a real challenge, and trying to do it through the camcorder lens is even more of a challenge. So the thing that makes it difficult is every piece is a different thickness, but some of them are so similar to each other that it can be really difficult. You end up finding the piece, moving it into the right place, and only at the last minute realising it's just that bit too thick and you've moved the wrong piece into place. So with that in mind, it does take longer, I find, to solve this one than the standard cube. But like I say, if you get your head around the idea that all your pieces are different sizes and different depths and different heights, then once you start to recognise the different sizes, it starts to make perfect sense. So let's mix both of these up, and then we'll move on to step 1, which is making the cross. Okay, so 2 messed up cubes. This one doesn't look especially different to how it was before, but obviously this is a big mess. But we're going to do the white side, so I'm choosing to pick my white side first, and what I've done here is I've got the green and white side, the green and white piece in the right place, but it's upside down, and then you do that algorithm to put that into place. And that's important because when you start looking at pieces that are different sizes, you've got to try and work out if they're upside down as well. So even if they're in the right place, they can look very wrong because they are, you know, a different size and upside down. So let's finish this in the traditional way. Okay, and my cross is done, and you know that you've done the cross right because these colours match as well on each of the sides. So let's get this cross made on this side. On the coloured cube I use the white side. What I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to use the thinnest side. Now this is where understanding the thicknesses of each of the pieces starts to become important, because as it's all a big mess, you start seeing that you know, pieces look like they're the thinnest, but they might be that bit wider. So let's have a quick look around the cube at what we've got. I've got here a flat, you know, I've actually got 3 pieces that look like they're in the right place already, but let me explain this. So I can run my finger across these pieces so I know that they're the same colour, and then looking around the puzzle, this piece is flush on this side and this piece is flush on this side. So effectively on the cross, that is already done. So I'm just going to mix this up a bit further, because that's not going to show you anything if it's already half done. Let's just look and see what we've got. So first thing to do is identify your centre squares, and there's one, and there's one, and there's one, and so on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and work out by looking which is the thinnest centre square, the most recessed into the puzzle. And I've actually got my clue here, because I know that this piece here is one of those thinnest pieces, and that's actually flush with this centre square, so I know that this centre square is the thinnest one. So this is my thin side. I'm going to treat that like I treat my white side. So first of all, I need to make sure that the colours match here and here, and as you can see, this piece here matches on this side, but it doesn't match on this side because it sticks out too far. So I'm going to rotate the top around, and I'm going to see that it matches on here. There we go. Notice how close that one is. It's not flush, but it's similar, so it's wrong. So you go that way and it's exactly flush, and that is my first piece of my cross put into the right position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for the rest of the cross pieces and use the normal Rubik's Cube solution to get those into place. So here is a very thin piece. Now remember that the cross looks like a crucifix, so it looks like if there's a thin piece like this, that's going to be a middle row piece. But let's have a look. Yep, that is flush on this side, so I'm going to turn that up, and sure enough that matches on both sides, so that piece is correct. So now let's look around for more thin pieces. Now here's one, and in my mind this piece looks like it matches. It's certainly the right thickness, but is this height here the same as the height here when they're flipped? You know what, I find it a little difficult to actually work that out, so I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And sure enough, yep, that is the right piece. I've got 3 of my cross pieces in place. I'm going to do a little bit of a tip here, which is very useful for using this puzzle, because it's a horrible puzzle for actually twisting and turning, especially with it being such a weird shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my finger here and my finger across there and try and keep my layers together as I start messing around with these two, because it'll just make these 2 layers easier to twist and I won't lose track of things. So there we go, that piece is level, so we turn that up, and sure enough we've got my cube, we've got my cross. Now just to be absolutely sure we've done this right before we move on, I'm just going to quickly visually check that that piece, that piece, that piece and that piece are all flush with the edge of the cube, and that's my cross done, and it's time to move on to step number 2. Okay, let's do stage 2. So as you know from the normal Rubik's Cube solution, stage 2 is putting the corner pieces in place on that top row. So you look around the puzzle, and that is my blue and red, so you move that into the corner of the blue and red, and then you do those 4 twists to move it up to the top position. So let's do that on the rest of the corners. And that is your top layer done. And the check that you make is that you've got all of your top layer matching with the center squares on all 4 sides. So let's use those same instructions to solve the next bit of this puzzle, which is to get your corner pieces in place. The thing that sort of plays games with your mind here is that you've got to completely ignore the second row, because we haven't solved that yet, and there could be any pieces sort of sticking out. So it's very easy, for example, for us to sort of think that this piece that we're going to put into this corner needs to match these squares below it, but it really doesn't, because that square is clearly wrong. So ignore that completely. What you're trying to do is you're trying to find the piece which goes flush with the edge of this square that you put in place and the edge of this square, so it'll be a piece that is so big. And let's have a look around and see what we can find. Obviously we're doing this thinnest layer, so we know that it's the thin pieces. So for example, this piece here, if we move that to there, does that look like it's the same size? No. Let's move it to there. That looks more like it. So we'll do the 4 twists to get that up to the top row. and that matches both of those pieces, so we know that that's the right corner. So let's use the same Rubik's Cube standard algorithm to move the other pieces into the right places. And then we've got our layer done. So just to compare that with the standard cube, the top is completely smooth, and as we look around, these colours match that colour, the thicknesses of this match the thicknesses of all of our centre squares, and that's stage 2 done, the corners put into place. Okay, stage 3, you turn your puzzle upside down and put your solved layer on the bottom, and then you have a look at your middle row. And the middle row solution, as you know, is all about moving pieces from the top to the middle. Now what we do on this is we look at the top and see that this is yellow, so any pieces that have got any yellow on, we know will not go onto the middle row. So it's the same theory for the Mirrorcube. So this piece is orange and green, that's my green, that's my orange. We do that algorithm to move that piece onto the middle row, and then we look on the top for more pieces that don't have any yellow on them, and we solve that middle row. Now at this point on our standard Rubik's Cube, we've got this piece, which is the correct piece in the correct place but with the wrong orientation. So we're going to move that onto the top row so that we can then rotate it round and move it back onto the middle row. This is again important because you'll get this on the Mirrorcube. So let's just fix that. Okay, and that is our second layer done. Okay, so let's do that step 2 solution now on this puzzle, and just to be sure we've got our bottom layer solved and we've got our centre squares all in line. What we can see from this is that this piece here is flush with our centre square, so these are effectively the same colour, but it's also flush with this one. So that means that if our top is yellow, this piece has yellow on it, so therefore it doesn't belong in the middle row. So let's rotate this around and find if we can see other pieces that go flush with our centre square, and we're back, and that one is the same one as before. So none of the pieces on our top row are flush with this one. So I'm going to do the same again on this side, and here's a piece which is flush on this side, and also it doesn't match the height of this piece, so we know that that is a middle row piece, not a top row piece. So now what we need to do is do the same algorithm to move this piece to either here or here that you would do on a normal cube. Now we can tell the width of the piece by looking at the bottom. So does that piece match this thickness or that thickness? I think it matches this thickness, so we need to move this piece from there to there. So we'll do the algorithm like you would on a regular Rubik's Cube to move that piece to there. And that piece is now in place, and you can see it's all flush with all the pieces around it, so that's good. So let's do the same again. We'll look at the top. I'll see if there's another piece that's flush with this centre square, because if there is, that means it goes there. So let's just do that. Save us a little bit of time. Nope. So let's go to this side, and then we'll have a look and see what's flush there. Nothing. Okay, that one's not flush, it's close, but it's not. That one is. So let's again look at the width of this piece. It's flush there, it's not flush on the top, so we know that this piece goes either here or here. Does the width of this piece match this piece or that piece? I think it's that one. Or is it that one? No, it's that one. So we'll go and I was wrong, it's not that one. So not a problem, we can just do the same move again to move it back, and then we'll move it to there. So let's do that. So that is our step 3 done, because we've now got all the middle row in place. So it's time to go on to the next step where we start looking at the top layer. Okay, here we go with the next step, and this is where you start doing your top layer of the puzzle. So you look at the top layer and you've got a pattern. It's either going to be a spot or a straight line or an L shape. So you have a look at this one, that's your spot. You go, and then that's made our L shape, so you rotate the puzzle so the L shape is at the top, and do the same again, which makes your straight line and makes your cross. Now when you've done the cross, you know that these colours probably don't match, but it doesn't matter because all you're doing is making the cross at the moment. So let's do that on here. The first thing you need to do is use the depths of the pieces to work out whether you've got the spot or the line or the cross or whatever. So these 4 cross pieces are all different heights to the centre square, so that is effectively the spot. So we do that move. And as with the other cube, we've now got the L shape, so you rotate the L shape to the top. These 2 obviously are different heights, you see, so that's how you know it's the L. So then you do the same again. That's given us the straight line. And now we've got the cross. Now the cross is obviously flush, as it's supposed to be, and we can see that as with the edges of this colour being the wrong colours, this is also the wrong on the edges, but it doesn't matter, as long as you've got the crosses, that's all you want to do, and that is the shortest step. So we move on. Okay, so the next step is to line up the colours on the sides of the puzzle, and what you do is you have a look around like this, and we try and find 2 colours that can be lined up together. And in this case I've got the other thing, which is where they're opposite each other, but that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the next algorithm from the 7-step solution. And what that does is it means I should now be able to get 2 colours that match. And there they are, that one and that one. You put one away from you, you put one on the right hand side, and do the same again. And there's your cross with all 4 colours in place. So let's have a look at it on here. That one's flush, but those 3 are not, so we'll give it 1 twist. None of them are flush there. 1 more twist. No. Okay, and here I've got my flush side here and here. So 1 at the back, 1 at the right. And now all 4 of my cross pieces are flush, so my cross is done. Okay, so this bit is the bit that I find the most tricky, and the reason is because on a standard cube it's actually a little bit tricky when you first start doing the standard cube in the same way. What you need to do is you need to make sure that all of your corners are in the right places, and you locate one of the corners which is in the right place, in this case this one, and then you have a look around. If they're all right, you've done that section, but if any of them are wrong, you do this manoeuvre. And then you have a look around again, and if there's any more wrong, you do it again. And then finally you get a situation like this, where all the corners are in the right place, even if they're the wrong way up. And when you first start doing the normal Rubik's Cube, that's a little tricky to work out in your head, but that piece is the right way up because all the colours are in the right corner, even if it's upside down. So try to do that, but do it with the different sizes of the puzzle. I've got my correct piece here because that's all flush, so let's just have a look at that and see what we've got. Now, to me, that piece is wrong because it's not wide enough here. No, so that's definitely wrong. So I'm going to do the algorithm. You can see why it's so important to sort of know the widths and the you know, the sizes of the pieces. But our piece here is still correct, but that piece surely goes there. So again, it's still wrong. So we'll do it again. Okay, and I think that's looking good. Okay, the last step, here we go. So on this one, you line up the wrong piece in the top right hand corner and do the 4 twists, and then you keep doing them until the piece is in the right place. Then you turn the top so that the other piece is in that position, and you keep doing the 4 moves. And then when you get to that position, you're solved. So let's do it on here. I'm going to move my wrong piece here, and I'm going to hold the pieces to try and sort of keep these 2 bits wedged. It's a knobbly shape, so it's difficult, but it's going to make my life easier to turn it with the turns. So 1, 2, 3. 4, 1, 2, 3. Always do that 4th twist. Very easy to forget on this version of the puzzle. Okay, rotate, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rotate. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2. There we go. 3, 4. And then all you're going to need to do now is just twist the top, and you've solved this horrible puzzle. What you need to do now is hide it, throw it in the bin, throw it in the loft, destroy it. Never let anybody get this thing. It's a horrible thing. And if you did find this solution helpful, please like and subscribe and tell your friends and all that sort of thing. Have a great day. Thank you.